Chapter 1. Flow. I was at a train station. The trembling echo of metal on the tracks seemed to still beat the heart of old times. As I watched a train pass by, I realized no one was actually getting anywhere. People were running, breathless, clutching their bags. But none of them were truly there. Everyone was simply passing by. Just as seconds, minutes, years do. Time was like an invisible river flowing through us all. We thought we were swimming in that river, but in reality, we were already being swept away. For a moment, I pulled my watch out of my pocket and looked at it. 7:45. Then my eyes darted. A seagull's cry, a distant train whistle, people colliding. Then I looked at the clock again. 7:47. 2 minutes had passed. So what had I done in those 2 minutes? What did I feel? What was I thinking? Nothing. And at that moment, something shook inside me. Time had stolen me, but unnoticed, silently. The theft of time is so silent that by the time we realize it, it's too late. You wake up one morning. Years have passed. You glance in the mirror for a moment, and the lines on your face are like a calendar. Minutes slipping away from a smile, a conversation, a look, all are traces of a silent theft. Time seems to steal nothing, but in reality, it takes everything. Your smiles, your youth, your regrets, and you never see your hands, because it is the silentest thief of all. Perhaps time's greatest trick is that it always tricks us into believing we've arrived somewhere. A job, a goal, an achievement, a next step. But when you reach that destination, you realize time is still a few steps ahead of you. It always flows, and we always run. But perhaps the real problem isn't that time steals from us, but that we silently allow it to. A notification sound, an anxious thought, a "see you later." Each one silently steals a piece of our lives. One day, when you stop and really look, you'll understand. Time was always there, but you were never there. Now think, what moment stealed you the most today? Maybe anxiety, maybe regret from the past, or that endless worry you feel about the future. Think, and describe it in one word. Write that word in the comments, because maybe that word will be the beginning of your awareness. Chapter 2. Lost. When the days begin to blend together, time is no longer a number, a calendar page, or a concept that can be condensed into a single hour. Suddenly, you realize that mornings are copies of yesterday. The same coffee, the same steps, the same thoughts. Each new day is like an echo of the last. The only difference is that you're a little more tired, a little less satisfied. One morning, I looked at the calendar. The date had changed, but I hadn't. Everything was moving. The city, the seasons, the people. I was like a shadow circling in the same place. Time was moving, but I was just getting older. This realization was painful, because sometimes we forget the difference between aging and growing up. Growing up is easy. If you're breathing, it's already happening. But growing up is a conscious choice. And I realized I hadn't made any choices for a long time. Time was flowing through me, but I couldn't move within it. It was as if there was an invisible flow, and I was standing at its edge, simply observing. My life was like a film strip. I was both an actor and a spectator, but I no longer even knew which scene I was on. In quantum mechanics, they say, the past and the future exist simultaneously. Everything exists as a potential possibility until you look. Your observation selects one of the possibilities, and it becomes real. At that moment, I thought, perhaps I was a possibility lost in the now. Perhaps I was an awareness suspended between my past and my future. I was neither fully here nor fully there. I was an observer. I was watching my life, but I wasn't living it. Then I looked back at my past. Some memories were blurry, others crystal clear. But I realized something. Every time I remembered, the past changed slightly. Some faces receded, some words sharpened, as if the past wasn't a fixed stone, but water that took shape with every touch. And in that moment, I realized even the past wasn't fixed. It was being rewritten by my consciousness. So, I wasn't just a victim of time, I was also its creator. But this awareness brought not peace, but responsibility. Because if the past changed with my gaze, then I was shaping the future. And the now, that fragile, thin line, was actually the only door where all time met. But the true irony was this. Instead of passing through that door, we always look both ways. We search for either a memory in the past or a hope in the future. And in this search, we lose the most precious thing, the present. What we call lost hasn't actually gone anywhere. It's always there. You just look in a different direction. Time doesn't lose you. You lose time. And before I know it, the days flow by, silently, like drops. You try to hear the voices of the past, to anticipate the echoes of the future. But the now is silent. It's waiting for you. Sometimes in a breeze, sometimes in a child's laughter, sometimes in that brief pause between your own breaths. The now is always there, but to recognize it, you must first see how time steals from you. That day, I realized I wasn't lost in a train station, but inside my own mind. The days on the calendar were passing, but I remained the same. I couldn't walk into the future without saying goodbye to the past. At that moment, I decided, from now on, I would stay in the now. I would silently reclaim every moment time had stolen from me, with a breath, an awareness, a pause, because perhaps awareness was the only way to slow time down. And now, I ask you, when was the last time you got lost in the present? How many times have you forgotten the present while trying to remember a moment or plan for the future? What do you think lost means? A moment, a person, or the melting pot of time? Perhaps that word will be the moment you find the present again. Chapter 3. Illusion. Time. We've always thought of it as a straight line. We are born, we live, we die, and our entire story unfolds along this fine line, a beginning, an end. But perhaps this is the greatest illusion of all, because the language of the universe is not linear, it is circular. Everything is reborn in a cycle, everything within itself. An ending is always the echo of a beginning, and we are lost in that echo. When you look at the night sky, you see the light that the stars lit thousands of years ago. You are actually looking into the past, but that light is burning in your pupils right now. So the past lives on in the future. Perhaps the universe is trying to tell us time is not a line, but a circle. One day, I stopped and asked myself, have I truly lived, or have I simply passed through? There was a long silence. I waited for an answer, but not a word came. Just a wind blew. And in that wind, I smelled the scent of my years, the joy of childhood, the excitement of youth, the quiet weariness of adulthood, all passed with that wind. At that moment, I realized time wasn't outside me. It flowed within me. Every memory, every emotion was swirling within me. Every moment I was hurt, every moment I laughed, every moment I was silent, we touched each other, forming a whole. And I wasn't, as I'd thought, an observer outside of time. I was at the very center of time. Perhaps the deception of time is that it appears like a flowing river, but in reality, we are not the water in that river, but a vibration within it. We are like a wave that rises and then recedes again. Nothing truly ends. It only changes form. Birth is not a beginning, but a continuation. Death is not an ending, but a return. The withering of a rose is not destruction, but rebirth in a different form. Every particle of the universe reminds us of this cycle, but we, modern humans, have confined time to measurements. Clocks, calendars, alarms. We divided everything into minutes, and then we got lost in those minutes. The falling of a calendar page no longer tells us just the end of a day, but a quiet opportunity. Yet the rhythm of the universe is completely different, silent. But in this silence lies an endless cycle, just like the beating of a heart. Each beat an ending, also a beginning. One day I placed my hand on the trunk of a tree. I felt the rings of the centuries in its bark. Each ring told the story of a year. Some thin, some thick, some drought, some abundance. But they were all interconnected. And in that moment, I realized even trees experience time not as a line, but as a circle. Perhaps what we fail to realize is this: we too are trees. Every year of our lives is a circle. Every moment is hidden within those circles. And everything we experience is part of that invisible cycle that grows us from within. That's why we sometimes say, time has passed, but it hasn't actually passed. It has simply returned in a different form. In a scent, a melody, a familiar look. The past is reborn. And in that moment, I realized I cannot experience time, but I can feel it. And everything I feel is the heartbeat of time beating within me. When you understand that time is not linear, the present suddenly expands. You are no longer in the shadow of the past, nor in the throes of the future, but at the center of an infinite cycle. That center is you. And perhaps the entire universe revolves around your awareness. Now consider, does time move relative to you, or do you revolve within it? Leave one word in the comments: illusion. Because perhaps what we call time is actually nothing other than us. Chapter 4: Relativity. Einstein once said, "Time is not absolute. It varies with the observer." For him, time was an invisible fabric woven into the fabric of the universe, and this fabric would bend as mass increases. A star's gravity could even bend light. What if space and time were bent by the weight of matter? But I'm thinking, what if not just the universe, but our consciousness as well? Because the human mind carries a kind of mass too. Fears, regrets, desires. They all place a burden on consciousness. And as this burden increases, our perception of time also bends. Think of a moment. When you're afraid, seconds seem to stretch. Time stretches, becomes an eternity. But when you're with someone you love, hours fly by like a breath. In that moment, Einstein's equation comes alive in your heart. Mass plays with time, and emotions create their own gravity. At that moment, I realized we live in the relativity of not only space, but also emotions. In quantum physics, time sometimes flows forward, sometimes backward. Particles can exist at different times relative to an observer. In other words, there's no absolute now. Everything depends on the observer's awareness. And perhaps the human psyche operates in the same way. Perhaps we recreate time based on the emotions we experience. When we are afraid, we extend time. When we love, we untie it. When we tell someone to wait, we chain time. When we tell something to let go, We release it. Because time is, in fact, a prisoner of our emotions. One morning, I looked out the window. Everything seemed frozen. The wind was blowing, but I couldn't hear it. It was as if time had stopped. Then I realized it wasn't time that had stopped. It was me. My mind was fixated on a memory from the past, rooted there. The weight of that memory distorted my universe. Time in the outside world flowed, but I remained outside of it. At that moment, I realized this. It's not the universe that stops time. It's us. Every regret, every fear, every word, if only, it tears a black hole in the fabric of our consciousness. And that black hole draws us in. But there's a miracle. Love. Love repairs that fabric. Because love stretches the fabric of time. It brings us back to the present. When you love someone, the past loses its meaning, and the anxiety of the future dissolves. Only the now remains. And the now is, in fact, the heart of all time. While Einstein was writing the formula for the universe, he was perhaps, unknowingly, also trying to find the formula for the soul. Time operates according to the heart of the observer. To a prisoner, a day can seem like an eternity. But for someone caring for a loved one, a lifetime fits into a second. This is relativity. This is the reality of humanity, not the universe. Think about it. Who measures time? The clock or the heart? Isn't every ticking an echo of our emotions? Perhaps time doesn't measure us. We measure time by our own emotions. When someone says, "I can't forget anymore," they're actually demonstrating that consciousness, not time, is distorted. Because that person still lives in the pull of that moment. Time is distorted there. But one day, when they say, "I let go," with a single breath, the universe expands. Time flattens again, and humanity flows again. Perhaps that's why some moments feel eternal to us, while others flow like water. Because we shape time with our emotions. The relativity of the universe is actually a reflection of our own inner relativity. That's why I'm no longer racing against time. I don't measure it. I don't try to dominate it. I just listen. And sometimes I whisper quietly, "Don't stop. Just flow. Because I'm ready." Perhaps the greatest lesson time teaches us is this. You can't control it, but you can choose how you feel. If you live in fear, time will swallow you. But if you live in love, time will dissolve into you. And in that moment, you are no longer just an observer. You become time itself. Chapter 5. Posture. One morning, I decided to do nothing. I didn't think, plan, or remember. I just sat. It wasn't even sitting, actually. It was as if my existence had forgotten the meaning of movement. Time seemed to be flowing, but I was somewhere outside of it. I heard the ticking of the clock, but that sound no longer belonged to me. At that moment, something happened. The flow of time stopped. Or perhaps I had stepped outside of it. For the first time, I felt neither the weight of the past nor the urgency of the future. Only that moment, only the now remained. And in that moment, I realized, perhaps time feeds on our obsession with constant movement. The more we say, "I must do something," the faster time passes. But when it stops, time is forced to stop as well. Because time feeds on thought. The more you think, the faster it accelerates. The more silent you remain, the more it freezes. For a moment, my stream of thoughts was interrupted, and I fell into the now. A boundless void, as deep as a well. There was neither past nor future. Only existence, only me. Silence grew within me, and that silence swallowed all the sounds of the outside world. Birds chirping, the sound of the wind, the hum of a distant vehicle. All were within the same hole, and I was a part of that hole. For the first time, time served me. I wasn't drifting within it, but flowing around me. It was as if I were a stone following the river, not in it. At that moment, I understood something very clearly. Time is, in fact, the movement of the mind. When the mind stops, time stops. Because what we call time is the product of the concepts of before and after. But if there is no thought, there is no before, and there is no after. Only the present remains. That's why the present is eternal. Because it doesn't go anywhere. It's always there, waiting for us to notice it. For years, I thought time was chasing me. But that day, I realized I was chasing it. I tried to get somewhere, to fix things, to remember. But time wasn't outside me. It was inside me. And when I became silent, time became silent too. Perhaps the greatest secret of the universe is this. When you stop thinking, time leaves you. In silence, there is a kind of eternity. But this eternity isn't scary. On the contrary, it's peaceful. Because in that silence, nothing is missing. No regrets about the past, no worries about the future. Just pure being. At that moment, I heard my own heartbeat. A rhythm. A rhythm that even respects time. With each beat, it felt like I was touching the center of the universe. With each breath, the universe shrank enough to fit inside me. Maybe God lives in silence, I thought. For only in silence can the voice of everything be heard. And in that silence, I was no longer a person. I was simply a being. As the noise of my thoughts faded, the whisper of the universe began to be heard. The language of the universe was not noise, but stillness. That silence spoke volumes without saying anything. After a while, I looked at the clock again. Minutes had passed, but I felt as if I hadn't lived those minutes. I had lost touch with the linear flow of time. I was in the moment, and there were neither minutes nor hours. There was only a sense of eternity. I didn't do anything that day, but perhaps for the first time in my life, I truly did something. I stopped. Because stopping isn't surrender, it's awareness. When you stop, you can see where the universe is taking you. When your mind calms, you become aware of the true movement within you. Perhaps that's why some moments only emerge when you stop. The direction of the wind, the fall of a leaf, the loss of a thought. Everything is noticed in silence. That day, I realized time's greatest trick is to keep us in constant motion. But true wisdom lies in learning to stand beyond movement. I no longer fight time. I don't chase the mind. I don't hold on to the past. I don't squeeze the future. I just sit and watch. Because sometimes doing nothing is the only way to understand everything. And in that moment, time doesn't control you. You control time. Now think about it. When was the last time you truly stopped? Remember what you felt, not what you thought. Leave a single word in the comments. I stopped. Maybe with this word, time slows down a little. Chapter 6, Rebirth. Tonight, I awoke in a moment of realization. Even though my eyes were open, I hadn't truly seen it until then. I realized I was chasing time, not the other way around. It was as if I'd been swimming in a river that had been flowing in the opposite direction for years. And in that moment, I understood the direction of the water for the first time. This realization was like a light, but not from the outside, but from within. It illuminated the dark corners of my mind one by one, and it was as if I were waking from a years-long sleep. Time wasn't my enemy, it was my teacher. By making me rush, by making me wait, by making me lose, it was teaching me something each time. That day, I understood. Every decision creates a small universe. A thought, a step, an intention. They all give birth to a possibility. And every delay kills one of those possibilities. Time is not your enemy. It creates with you. It shapes you together. Living a moment is, in fact, giving birth to time. I paused for a moment and remembered how many times I'd said, "I'll do it tomorrow." Those tomorrows piled up, and I was trapped under that puddle. But I realized those lost days weren't actually lost. They all whispered one thing: time can be reborn in your hands. I wasn't trying to stop time anymore. I wasn't fighting it. I wasn't trying to control it. I was simply dancing with it, like a rhythm, like a breath, forward, backward. A moment would be lost, a moment would be found again, because I'd learned that time didn't flow against you. It wanted to flow in the same rhythm as you. It just wanted to be in sync with you. But whenever you sped up, it fell behind. Whenever you slowed down, it caught up. If you missed the rhythm, you missed time. Time wasn't an enemy. It was a dance partner. When she took a step, he took a step. When she paused, she breathed. But to lead that dance, you had to feel the rhythm, like the flutter of a bird's wings, like a wave crashing onto the shore. Everything had its time. And for the first time, I learned to trust my own inner rhythm. I was no longer in a hurry, because I knew it was never too late for anything. Everything only happened when the time was right. And sometimes, even doing nothing was a sign of perfect harmony with the universe. Time no longer worried me, because I was no longer flowing with it, but flowing with it. With every breath, there was birth. And with every release, there was death. But this death wasn't frightening. It was transformative. With every breath, a piece of the old me died, and a purer me was born. And I realized rebirth doesn't happen in a new body. It happens with a new awareness. You are born not in a morning, but in a silence. Not in a noise, but in a now. You re-exist in the heart of time. I used to try to capture time. Now I breathe with it. Every second, like a friend on my shoulder. It doesn't force me. It simply reminds me, I am not your enemy. I am the rhythm of your existence. Time now plays like music inside me. Not fast, not slow. Exactly as it should be. And I surrender myself to that music. Sometimes a note is missing. Sometimes a rhythm slips. But that's beautiful too. Because even imperfections make time more meaningful. Nothing has to be perfect. Everything is beautiful, just the way it is. I no longer try to understand time, but to live it. Because time gains meaning not only when understood, but also when felt. In a heartbeat, a breath, a smile, the essence of time is there. And perhaps the greatest rebirth is the moment you make peace with time. The past no longer holds you captive, and the future no longer frightens you. Because you know, everything is already happening when it's meant to. There's a kind of peace in that awareness. There's no beginning, no end, just an endless flow. And in that flow, I'm reborn, with every moment, every breath, every awareness. Chapter 7. The Call. Sometimes there's a voice inside us, nameless but unsilenceable. Sometimes it touches a memory, sometimes the shadow of a face. And no matter how hard we try not to listen to it, it's always there. It wants to filter through time, reminding us of something. Perhaps as you listen to these words, you'll hear an echo of yourself somewhere. A regret, perhaps. An unfinished sentence. An unspoken apology, or a smile you've long tried to forget. But even if you don't realize it, it's all still there, amidst the layers of time, waiting for you. Because time isn't just something that passes, it's reborn as you remember. And sometimes, returning to the past is the only way to move forward. When you touch your past, when you realize it still affects you, you don't actually descend into the depths of time, but into the center of your own consciousness. Perhaps you've noticed, time doesn't follow you. You follow it. It's always there. But every time you notice it, you shape it. It speeds up with a thought. It slows down with acceptance. It transforms into eternal peace with forgiveness. Therefore, trying to defeat time is futile, because it is already one with you. It contracts every time you ask, "Why me?" It expands every time you say, "I'm here now." It flows with your heartbeat, pauses in your silence. And what about that feeling inside you? Perhaps you can't even name it, but it is your call. A silent vibration rising to remind you of yourself. A call from beyond time, but audible only in the now. This call asks nothing of you. It simply asks you to be aware, to no longer run away. Forgive your past, don't force your future, and truly be in the moment. Because the only way time can steal you is by walking away from yourself. But the moment you realize this, it can no longer touch you. In that moment, the chain of time is broken. And for the first time, you know what true freedom feels like. Now, only one thing remains. Stop fighting time. Learn to walk with it. Let each moment be a turning point, not an ending. And if one day you feel lost, remember, time flows not through time, but within you. Your awareness determines its direction. As long as you exist, it continues to exist. So, take a breath now. Feel all your past, all your future, and all your nows merging. And know that you are not waiting for time. Time is waiting for you.